Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Belcher from the counseling office. Today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence and growing our emotional vocabulary. So, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. Emotional intelligence is not about being nice all the time. It's not about being touchy feely. It's not about being emotional. Emotional intelligence is about being honest. It is about being aware of your feelings and feelings of others, and it is about being smart with your emotions. Here are some of the benefits of having a good emotional intelligence: better managing of behaviors. It helps with navigating change, new trends, and complex social situations. Improved decision making skills, increased positive results in school and work, and improved leadership skills. Today, we are going to work a little on understanding different emotions within ourselves and others and building up our emotional intelligence. Okay, we're going to have a little friendly competition. Teachers, if you could go ahead right now and break your homeroom up into 4 groups, just go with who they're sitting next to. If you just break up into 4 groups right within your classroom. And one person from each group is going to need a piece of paper and something to write with. So if you could take a quick minute to just divide up into 4 groups, and at least one person from each group needs to have something to write with and a piece of paper. I'll give you just a minute to do that. Okay, now that you have your 4 groups and somebody in each group has a piece of paper, here is what we're going to do. Each team will be asked to focus on the 4 basic emotions, and those are glad, mad, scared, and sad. The task is to brainstorm as many emotions or feeling words that would have similar meaning as the words and write them in the appropriate category. So every team will have 3 minutes, and teachers are going to pause the video here in a minute and set a timer for 3 minutes. Again, each team will have 3 minutes to come up with as many emotions or feelings that would have similar meaning to those 4 main emotions. So those main emotions are the ones here in yellow up on the screen, or they're over here on the right: glad, mad, sad, and scared. At the end of the 3 minutes, each group is going to tally up how many words they were able to come up with for each of the different categories. So you're going to have 3 minutes, write down as many words you can in each of the 4 main emotion categories, and then tally them up at the end, and then we'll start the video again. So at this time, if you want to go ahead and pause the video and start your timer and get those words flowing. Okay, now that you've had a few minutes to do that activity, I have a couple follow-up questions that I'd like for you to ask to work through as a homeroom. So some of the questions are: was it easier to think of emotions that were associated with positive or negative thoughts? And how often do you use those feeling words? How do you recognize or notice feelings in others? And how can you tell how someone is feeling, whether they're angry, frustrated, sad, or happy? So I want you to pause the video and just take a few minutes to kind of work through these questions as a group, and then we'll come back and move on to the next part of the activity. Okay, obviously there are tons of different feelings and emotions words out there. In thinking about the activity that you just finished, it is helpful to remember that our feelings usually fall somewhere on a scale. For example, think about those paint samples you might get from Menards or Lowe's. In the picture here, it shows the lighter green is as disappointed, then the medium green color as bummed, and then the darkest green color as upset. They are all on the continuum of being sad, but using the more descriptive words can give us a better understanding of where someone is at on the scale of sadness. Being a little disappointed is far different than being extremely upset. I am sad or I am feeling sad. What's the difference? The brain is a physical representation of your beliefs. The difference between I am sad and I feel sad. I am sad is a self-definition and a very limiting one. Remember, you are not defined by an emotion or feeling. I feel sad suggests the ability to recognize and acknowledge a feeling without being consumed by it. It is important to feel the emotion and move forward. Feelings can describe a range of emotions about yourself. You can be describing your physical self, your cognitive self, your emotional self, or even your behavior. Have you ever had someone ask, "How are you feeling today?" and you are not quite sure how to answer? In one aspect of your life, for example, emotionally, you might feel great, but physically you might feel tired. It is important to try to really understand what we are asking and to understand what the person is communicating. Feelings can tell us a lot about a person and about ourselves. I want you to take just a couple minutes to try to answer these questions on your own. You don't have to write them down. If you want to, you can, but I just want you to take just a minute to kind of think about how you're feeling right now, how you're feeling emotionally, physically, mentally, and overall. I've listed some words, like a little word bank on the right for you to use, but then you also have all the words that you guys just came up with earlier in that first activity we did. It might be interesting to see how in one category you might be feeling really good, and in another category you might feel not so great. Okay, we're going to watch this quick video about developing emotional intelligence, and then after that we're going to talk about your own individual emotional intelligence scores that are in your Naviance account.
Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, interpret, and process emotions in yourself and others. While genetics, upbringing, and environment all play a role, there are steps you can take to develop your emotional intelligence over time. Get to know yourself. Emotionally intelligent people are self-aware. They have a realistic appreciation of their strengths and weaknesses and how they come across to others. Peer feedback is one way of improving your self-awareness and may uncover a few of your emotional blind spots. Learn your triggers. Linked to the notion of self-awareness is knowing how you are likely to respond in particular situations. Think about how you felt the last time you were under pressure. Did these feelings help or hinder you? Recognizing emotions and the source of these emotions can shift your emotional state. Empathize. Seeing things from someone else's perspective will help you understand their values and beliefs. This is important when it comes to motivating and engaging others. Make a conscious effort to get to know your colleagues. Ask open questions and actively listen to what they have to say, rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. Be on the lookout for body language and other non-verbal signs, as these may tell you more than someone is willing to express out loud. Own your emotions. Part of being emotionally intelligent is about taking responsibility for the way you interact with others. If someone upsets you, Pause and reflect on why their actions led you to feel this way, instead of reacting impulsively. Recognize that a conversation is a two-way interaction, and it takes two people to make you angry, sad, or frustrated. Go with your gut. Finally, listen to your body. If your stomach starts doing backflips every time you speak to a senior manager, or your muscles tense up before you go into a meeting, what does this tell you? Counterintuitive as it might seem, emotions can be a valuable source of information when making rational decisions at work. Remember, emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about learning how to recognize, process, and channel them in a way that benefits you and your team. Enhancing your emotional intelligence requires effort, but it can be achieved with sustained practice.
The last thing we're going to talk today about is your actual emotional intelligence score. So I am going to have you all pull up your Naviance account. So open up your device and get into your Naviance account. You should have all by now completed the intelligences assessment within your Naviance account. So I'm going to show you real quick how to get there. You're going to log into Naviance. Remember, you can go to your Google Waffle to get into your Naviance account real quick. And you're going to go into Naviance, go to that self-discovery and intelligences. So log into Naviance, go to self-discovery, and go into intelligences. When you get in there, your intelligences report is going to look something like this. If you haven't taken this before, you probably should have by now, so it might be something you want to do after class, because eventually everybody does have to complete all the assessments within Naviance. But most of you should have it done already. So when you get into your assessment, the results, you're going to scroll down just a little bit, and you will see your emotional intelligence score there, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. And then if you scroll on down quite a bit, I think it's actually closer to the bottom here, just up a little bit from the jobs it shows you at the bottom. It'll talk a little bit about your emotional intelligence score and then give you some tips for developing your emotional intelligence a little bit more. So in talking about the score you see, you'll probably see one of three different types of scores there. So if your score looks like this top one here, and it's more of like a pinkish line, then that probably means emotional intelligence is maybe not your strength. If it's more of a, I don't know, bluish purple color, then that's probably more of a moderate level, meaning you have a decent understanding of emotional intelligence. And if it's in the green, then probably emotional intelligence comes pretty naturally for you and understanding and managing those feelings and emotions. So your emotional intelligence score is a combination of your interpersonal score, which is your ability to understand and work with other people, and your intrapersonal score, which is the ability to understand oneself. So none of these scores are good or bad. It just means that for some of you, you might need to put a little bit more effort into working on your emotional intelligence, and for others of you, it might come very easily. These 14 traits here, these are the traits of people who have a strong emotional intelligence. So these can be some categories to kind of work on. Like for example, one of them today, we kind of worked on expressive, being able to communicate your emotions better in a healthy way by working on some of those emotion and feelings words today. The last thing I wanted to just leave you with, and these recommendations are in everyone's Naviance account too, in that same assessments results section in your intelligences assessment at the bottom. It talks about some different ways to develop your emotional intelligence. So you can take some time to read through those and really even if you were in the green on the emotional intelligence score, we all probably have some work we can do. So I think that these tips and recommendations are good for anyone. So you can take some time to kind of read through those and work on those on your own time. All right, that's it for today. Thank you.